For Jerry Dipoto, he has moved players around over and over. Every move he makes is a good move, and yet the Mariners are 67.5 on the over/under, and I'm going to go over on the side. I don't think Seattle. Look, they're not a good team. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. They're certainly not going to win the World Series, so I'm laying off of those bets. But I mean, I like some of the things they're doing. And I like a couple of young outfielders that they have. So let's tell you who they are right away. All right? Catching, you're going to have the two-headed monster, Tommy Murphy and Austin Nola. And I think they're both going to get some time. For Nola, he's a guy who could also play some first base. He may bat you 270 with 6 to 10 home runs. As far as Murphy's concerned. So between the two, maybe if you added up both of their numbers and you get Tommy Murphy, who could hit you, 10 to 15 home runs, bat you 240. He's 28 years old. He'll serve as the primary catcher. Don't forget they traded Omar Narvaez to the Brewers. So he's showing an increased role. So Murphy will be the catcher. 28 years old. He had 273 last year with 18 home runs, so not a bad player there. Over at first base, as we're doing the Seattle Mariners, Evan White. Evan White, who I believe is one of the players who hit 2 home runs off of, I'm not sure about that. I was going to say 2 home runs off of Clayton Kershaw, but I'm not sure. Anyway, Evan White at first base, big kid, and not getting all the publicity that he probably should get, but yet he's a nice player. He's going to be the first baseman there. He's 23 years old. He'll hit you around 275 to 280. It's not. No, they didn't hit. He signed a long-term major league deal. Okay, that's what he did. Signed a long-term major league deal. He'll hit you 8 to 12 home runs. Nothing great. Quality first base prospect. That's what he is. And he's a big kid. He's about 6'3", but he's 180 pounds, so he's got to fill out a little bit. He's a good athlete. He's a good defender. They're talking about he might start in AAA, but he did sign a 6-year, $24 million contract. Okay, so look, he's a plus runner. Also, he's got some stolen bases in his arsenal at first base. He's a talent, but I'm not ready. He's only 23 years old. It wouldn't shock me if he started the year in AAA, which means that the first baseman for this ball club may very well be Patrick Wisdom could play first. D. Gordon. Andy still likes D. Gordon. Andrea still likes D. Gordon. I think D. Gordon is washed up, especially on this team. So for D. Gordon, how many stolen bases will D. Gordon get? That's the whole thing. How many stolen bases? If he gets 25, okay, he's expected to play everywhere. Shed Long is expected to take over the Seattle primary second base job. So look, if he gets 30, that's a good year. Last year he only had 22. He's 31 years old. Stay away from D. Gordon. He's a one-trick pony. The only good thing is that you're getting the one trick from second base, not from the outfield spot. So that's D. Gordon. Keep an eye that Shed Long is going to make his debut. J.P. Crawford at shortstop. Nothing much to talk about with J.P. Crawford. He's, in my opinion, an under average shortstop. Doesn't really stand out in power, doesn't stand out in speed, he's just mediocre. He is absolutely vanilla. He'll hit you 230, he'll get you 10 home runs, he'll steal you 10 bases. Now, that's not terrible, but certainly can't use that in a mixed league. Over at third base, Kyle Seager. I mean, we don't know what to expect from this guy anymore. Kyle Seager, he's not a great third baseman. He is an adequate third baseman. And if he gives you the following, he'll be exactly what you hoped you wouldn't get. But you're going to get him. Seager's going to hit you 240. He could hit 20, 23, 24 home runs. He missed time due to an injury in 2019. he injured his hand in spring training. He didn't start the regular season. When you look at his numbers last year, 23 home runs, 63 RBIs, he didn't start until the end of May. So, and when you have a hand injury, you always got to worry about the power, and you got the ball. So he had 23 home runs last year in an abbreviated season for him. With a full season, he may do the same, but 20 to 25, that's what you'll get out of him. That's Kyle Seager. Now it gets interesting. In the outfield, one of the players that I really like on this ball club is Kyle Lewis. And when I saw him in the Arizona Fall League, I had to turn to Andy and say, who is this guy? Because I didn't really he came into the Arizona Fall League kind of late in the season. So when I went to see that team play, I said, I didn't see this guy before. But he's got tremendous power. He had 6 home runs and 40 at-bats. 6 home runs and 40 at-bats. He also hit 325 in a 10-game stretch with 9 extra base hits, 12 RBIs, 10 runs. He, very much like Austin Riley, very much like Aristides Aquino, very much like some of the guys who came up last year with a flourish, and then he hit the skids, okay? So, look, 260, he could hit you 20 home runs, 6'4", 205, very impressive. I like this kid a lot, and I think if you're in a keeper league, it's a guy that you absolutely will pay the extra $1 or $2 for, just in terms of keeping him if you can get him at a cheap price. In center field, Malik Smith. Everybody wants to know about Malik Smith. All I can tell you is that he's Malik Smith, and he's going to do exactly what he is paid to do, and that is play good defense in center field and also steal you some bases. Malik Smith is going to give you, he did hit 6 home runs last year, probably do the same, hit you 250, he'll steal you 30 bases. Look, he has no exit velocity. So he has no exit velocity. He's got to beat out grounders. He's got to hit line drives wherever he can that nobody's around. Ground ball rate was around 50%. Okay? 50% ground ball rate. So at least he has a chance to beat him out. But Malik Smith is, I just told you what he was. That's about it. The other outfield spot for the Seattle team, you're going to see Jake Fraley. You're going to see Braden Bishop. And you're going to see Daniel Vogelback as the DH with 25 home runs. Who's Fraley? Who is Bishop? Those are the questions, because I saw Bishop play in the outfield in the Arizona Fall League, and I thought he looked okay. I thought he was okay. Nothing special, but I thought he was a major league ball player. For Bishop, if he gets a shot, and you're going to look at these guys in your reserve rounds, if he gets a shot, okay, he's 26 years old, and he had last year he got 60 plate appearances, only hit $107. He went 4 for 28, but I'll watch him in spring training. I'm not going to tout him at all, just telling you who he is. Jake Fraley, on the other hand, he could hit you about 270. He'll hit you 6 to 10 home runs, but he can also steal some bases. He's 24 years old. Jake Fraley could steal you about 9 to 10 bases, and in the minor leagues, he's at 33, he's at 16, he's at 11. Put Jake Fraley in as a sleeper. If he hits you 275, he's only 6 feet, about 195, doesn't have a lot of double-digit power, but he could hit 10 home runs and steal you 15 bases. As an end-game pick, as a fill-in the event somebody gets hurt, wouldn't be a terrible guy to put in your lineup, and he's got the chance to do better. He's a lefty all the way, okay? Jake Fraley. Vogelback, look, you know who's going to get there. Mitch Haniger out for most of the year. The pitching staff leaves a lot to be desired. Here's why they're a terrible team. Here's why 67.5, I'm going to say, under, certainly not going to win the division or the World Series. Marco Gonzalez, Yushi Kikuchi, Kendall Graveman is back, Justin Dunn, and Justice Sheffield was a pitcher that I saw in the Arizona Fall League when he was a pitcher, I believe, on the Yankees. And I'll tell you something, I really liked him. I really thought his mound presence was good. I thought his composure, everything was good. Sort of, kind of reminded me of a little bit of, actually, it's been a couple of pitchers, but if he gives you a 4.1 ERA and a 1.3 WHIP and 140 strikeouts, he joined the big league rotation for the first time towards the end of the season, but he didn't have a lot of success. 22% strikeout, almost 11% walk. So he had a 5.5 ERA. Did not look good last year, but watch him in the spring because he could develop. He was supposed to be somebody, okay? Those are the only pitchers that I'm going to tell you on Seattle who even deserve. I mean, Kikuchi, he's unproven, of course, and I'm going to say, let me throw out a couple of numbers here for you. Very high whip, nothing. He's just not a pitcher. He's a left-handed thrower, 6 feet, 200 pounds. He's 28 years old, and he fell short of expectations last year. He had over a 5 ERA with a 1.5 whip. The bullpen is going to be interesting. Somebody's going to get saves here. And it might be Matt Magel. Danny Altavella is back, the hard thrower who I predicted 3 years ago was going to win the closing job. So that was 3 years ago. I didn't tell you when I predicted it. I just said he was going to. Matt Magel. A lot of places think he's 30 years old. He had 5 saves last year. He began the 2019 season in Minnesota, sent in a midseason trade. So he showed improvement with the Mariners. And he earned a share of the closer's role. His average velocity on his fastball has risen in each of the couple of years he's been there. So for now, you got to say Magel. But I'll tell you something. Magel could be the guy. He had 5 saves last year. But the guy, as I said, Altavella, I have just loved this guy for a long time. I don't even know. He did something, but I don't remember what he did. Maybe he pitched both ends of a doubleheader or something. I don't know what he did. But here's a guy who could wind up as the save guy, okay? He battled forearm issues in 2018 when I thought he was going to be the closer. Then he struggled in 2019, made it back to Seattle. Just etch this name in your kitchen table. Altavella could be the closer. There's not a lot here. There's just not a lot in Seattle. Brandon Brennan, another guy, but there's nothing you can say about him. As far as the Mariners, Jarred Kelenic, the kid they got from the Mets, he's going to be a star. He had 292 last year, 22 home runs. He had 20 out of 27 stolen bases. So, look, he was a top prospect. The Mets let him go. All in that Robinson. I mean, forget about it. He's got 5-tool potential. Julio Rodriguez is 18. He's not going to see him at all this year, okay? But the guy I'm going to talk about, and I have talked about, and I will say, is Jarred Kelenic, okay? Because I think he's going to be pretty good. So, there you go. Not a lot in the way of prospects for this team either, but Kelenic is somebody that you got to watch. Evan White, like I mentioned at first base, a legitimate 5-tool first baseman. He can steal you some bases. He can hit you some home runs. Whether or not he starts the year, don't know. As far as the pitchers that could show up this year, Logan Gilbert, who's a 6'6 righty, touches 98, 4 pitches, and throws strikes. He could be seen. And that's really about it. So there's nothing really on the horizon for Seattle. With the Justice Sheffield, he was a guy who was supposed to be something. He's got 3 top pitches, but control will determine if he's a starter, or if you really want to speculate, Justice Sheffield could wind up being a closer. That's right. It's all about consistency of command. He's got 3 potential top pitches, and he strikes out at least one batter an inning. Justin Dunn is another guy, the 24-year-old outfielder, former reliever with 4 major league pitchers, got a high ceiling. Watch this kid. Just know who he is, Justin Dunn. His command, it comes and goes. All right, so keep an eye on Kyle Lewis. Keep an eye on Jake Freely. You can get these guys for relatively nothing, although Lewis you may have to pay $1 or $2. Seattle, 67.5. It's going to be a down season. I'll go under.